One of the United States' greatest achievements is the creation of its unique government system. Although the United States government is renowned for this achievement, it is also known that the United States was not the first country to have this grand idea. When individuals generally think of the birthplace of democracy in a historical context, they think back to the ancient world and the great minds of the Greek city-state Athens, which allowed its male citizens to vote. Or one may think of the great power of the Roman Republic, which lasted for approximately 482 years. One nation which is rarely discussed and completely absent from the public consciousness is the Iroquois Confederacy, a nation which was originally established by 5 Native American tribes sometime between the years 1142 and 1451. Sadly, most people know little about this nation, even though, in reality, the Iroquois Confederacy could very well have been more stable and more representative than the governments set up by the Greeks or Romans, and could have had more in common with the United States than one may first believe. Before I begin, I would like to state that the Iroquois Confederacy was a complex society that someone like myself cannot fully delve into in such a short video as this. The intent of this video is to give a basic understanding of how the Iroquois Confederacy functioned during its prime, and since I myself am far from an expert on this topic, I only wish to spark more interest in this vastly overlooked part of American history. The Iroquois Confederacy had a strong foundation, structured all the way down to the family unit. This importance on community is blatantly apparent in the name that the Iroquois gave themselves. This name was the Haudenosaunee, which, as Indians.org states, meant people who lived in extended longhouses. The Haudenosaunee themselves were not a single people, but were rather a confederacy made of originally 5 individual nations, much in the same way that the United States is made up of 50 states. These original 5 nations were the Seneca and Mohawk, the 2 largest in population and size, along with the Cayuga, Oneida, and Onondaga, which were the 3 smaller nations located in between the 2 larger nations. To begin to understand their government, we must first discuss their namesake, the Longhouse. Indians.org depicts a longhouse as a long, narrow single room, which could reach lengths of 100 meters but was never wider than 5 to 7 meters. These houses had a door at both ends and consisted of 10 or so booths on either side of a long open hallway that a family would occupy, 1 family to 1 booth. This means that there could easily be as many as 20 families living alongside each other in a single longhouse. Since these families lived so close together, they would most likely have felt a strong tie to one another. One important aspect of the Iroquois system of government was that the Confederacy was a matriarchy, which meant that the women held political power. The most important position a woman could hold was that of clan mother. A clan mother was the head of each family. In this case, family referred to the complete extended family, meaning that a clan mother could easily be the leader of an entire longhouse or multiple longhouses. Women, however, were not the only participants in government. Each clan mother had the power to appoint men from her clan into key political positions. These positions were as follows: war chiefs, who we would refer to today as generals; peace chiefs, who acted as diplomats to other tribes; civil chiefs, who dealt with internal problems within the tribe; and finally, sachems, who would represent their clan at the Haudenosaunee Council, where the representatives from each nation's clan would meet and discuss in the same longhouse. This Haudenosaunee Council is where the commonalities to our modern-day government begin to become more apparent. The council was made up of 50 different sachems, and each nation had a certain number of sachems that made up the 50-member council. The Mohawk had 9, Onondaga had 14, Seneca had 8, Oneida had 9, and the Cayuga held 10. This method is similar to how each state in the United States has different members who make up the House and the Senate. The Onondaga were located in the center of the Confederacy. meaning that the 5 nations would hold their council meetings in Onondaga territory, around the eternal fire of the Haudenosaunee Confederacy. This fire was maintained year-round by the Onondaga people and by the 14 Onondaga sachems during actual council meetings. The council meetings were arranged in a certain way around the fire. The Onondaga were located at the head of the fire at the center of the room. The 4 remaining nations were separated into 2 separate groups called moieties, located on either side of the fire. The Seneca and Mohawk made up the senior moiety, while the Oneida and Cayuga made up the junior moiety. These moieties were not like political parties, but rather acted similarly to the U.S. House and Senate. And although the Onondaga were technically part of the senior moiety for all intents and purposes, it's easier to imagine the Onondaga as a separate third party. This will all become more clear when I discuss how a law would have been passed. Any of the nations from the 2 moieties, the Mohawk, Seneca, Oneida, and Cayuga, could present an idea and debate it within its own nation. If the nation could not agree, then the idea would die. If the nation agreed on an idea, they would then begin to discuss it with the other nation in their moiety. If these 2 nations could not agree, then the idea would die. If the 2 nations did agree, then it would be passed onto the other moiety. If this moiety did not agree with the other moiety's idea, the decision would be passed onto the Onondaga to act as a third-party tiebreaker. Now, if the 2 moieties came to an agreement, it would again be passed onto the Onondaga. The Onondaga could either agree, thus making it law, or if the Onondaga did not agree, the idea would be sent back to the original nation that proposed it, starting the whole process over again. If, during this second time through, the moieties once again came to an agreement, it would overrule the Onondaga's opinion, making the idea law. Obviously, this shares some basic similarities to how our modern government works. For example, how in the Iroquois Confederacy, an idea must pass from nation to moiety to other moiety and finally to Onondaga. A bill in the United States must make it out of committee, then move on to either the House or Senate, depending on whether the committee originated in the House or Senate. Then, after passing in either the House or Senate, it must go to the opposing branch, and if it is passed in that branch, it'll be sent to the President, who has the power to veto it. And if the President does veto it, then the House and the Senate can override that veto with another 3/4 majority vote. In conclusion, the Iroquois Confederacy displays how, contrary to popular belief, the Native American people were highly capable of organizing a government that was in some ways superior to other nations at the time, while also being the first known form of democracy in the Americas, long before the United States was even an idea.